from Interfaith Alliance, this is State of Belief Radio. I'm your host, Reverend Welton Gaddy. As the summer drags on, it seems there are almost as many theories as to what will determine this fall's election results as there are voters. Will the stock market rise? What about Romney's taxes? Will states suppress turnout with unprecedented voter ID laws? And how about jobless numbers and new housing starts and whether the moon will be full and whether the oysters will be in season? Many analysts have concluded that, in fact, this November's election will hinge on the continued loyalty of the African-American community to Barack Obama. Let's get an overview of this highly prized block of voters from Dr. Robert P. Jones, founder and president of Public Religion Research Institute. You know him. This is the institute that we call on all the time for accurate information, and Robbie explains it to us so well. The institute recently released the results of a new survey asking minority voters about the importance of social issues in their decision-making process. And, as you will hear later in the show, the GOP is counting on these issues being key to the success of a divide-and-conquer strategy. Robbie Jones, thanks for joining us again on State of Belief Radio.
Thanks, Weldon. I'm very happy to be here.
So what did you ask in this new survey?
Well, in this most recent survey, we surveyed both African Americans and Latino voters, and we're trying to get a sense of kind of where they are on on cultural issues such as abortion and same-sex marriage. And for African American voters in particular, we wanted to know whether or not there had been much impact on President Obama coming out for marriage equality, and whether this was going to have any impact. There's been a lot of speculation about this, and one of the challenges has been that with most traditional polls, you get very small samples of African Americans and Latinos in those polls. It's hard to make really definitive conclusions from those polls. So this poll surveyed 800 African Americans nationwide and gives us a really solid sense of where the community is on these issues.
So if I were building an election year strategy on social issues and minority voters, would I find this new PRRI survey encouraging or discouraging?
I think you might try to look for a different strategy. What the poll really reveals is that these issues rank very, very low on minority voters' radar screens. We had, for example, less than 1 in 5, so only 18%, saying, for example, that the issue of same-sex marriage among African Americans was a critical issue facing the country today. And you compare that to, more than 7 in 10. Saying that the economy is the critical issue. So, like most Americans, actually, in this election cycle, minority voters are just very tightly focused on the economy, and these other social issues are really not things that they're likely to really bring with them in any significant way to the ballot box in November.
Are there any of the social issues that represent an exception to that?
The two we looked at really were abortion and same-sex marriage. And among Latinos, abortion is a little more resonant, but it's still only about 3 in 10 who say it's a critical issue facing the country. So still far, far behind things like the economy and health care and other issues that really are more economic in nature.
Robbie, some commentators have suggested that the Obama campaign is taking the African-American vote for granted. Are there any signs in the survey that Democrats may have problems with this constituency come November?
Right. Now, we've seen this, I think, this week, actually. There were some African-American ministers who were claiming exactly that the administration, precisely because of President Obama's stance supporting allowing gay and lesbian couples to marry in the country, was taking the African-American community for granted. What our survey finds really is no evidence that there's really any slippage in support. I'll give you just a couple of examples. Among African Americans, Obama still enjoys an overwhelming advantage over Romney. So nearly 9 in 10, 87% of black voters in the country say they're supporting, continue to support President Obama. Only 3% say they're planning to support Mitt Romney. There's 10% still out saying that they don't know, they haven't made up their minds yet. But still, 9 in 10 to 3% is a pretty overwhelming advantage. It also shows up in favorability. Obama enjoys a 90% approval rating among African Americans, and this is 3 months after his stance supporting same-sex marriage. Romney only has a 14% approval rating. So it's a very stark difference when you look at the economy at the two candidates here. One other thing I would say is just we asked people directly also about whether they knew about Obama's support for same-sex marriage and if they knew whether they support it. And I think the most powerful indicator of how little an issue this is going to be at the ballot box in November is this, that nearly 7 in 10, 68%, actually know that Obama has come out and supported same-sex marriage. And among those who do, 60% said that they approve of his stance.
You're right. Is there anything else in this survey revealed that might help predict what happens in November?
What we see is a very strong support among minority communities. As Obama enjoyed in 2008, we see that support continuing really into this election cycle. So I would expect, very, very overwhelming support among African Americans and very, very strong support, 2-to-1 support for Obama over Romney among Latino voters as well.
That's Dr. Robert P. Jones, founder and president of the Public Religion Research Institute. You can read the full survey for yourself, and you see its findings at publicreligion.org. Robbie, as always, excellent work. Keep on asking people questions and telling us what they say and forecasting how this thing is going to go. You're really good at it. And thanks.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with you.
Great to have you again on State of Belief Radio.
Thanks a lot.